Today's task is about measuring lengths, and for today more so than other days it's really important that you do the lesson part of it as well as the homework part where you see your score. In the lesson part there are some skills that are practiced that aren't practiced anywhere else, such as measuring lengths and also combining lengths like meters and centimeters. So if you have a look what I mean by that, number 1 goes into measuring lengths, number 2 looks at explores centimeters and millimeters, number 3 is one of the ones where you actually have to use a ruler and you have to convert between millimeters and centimeters. You can do that on this ruler, I think, by clicking on here. Yes, you can. So this is centimeters, and if I click here it's then showing the millimeter parts of a centimeter. So we need to be able to measure very accurately. Some of them are exactly in centimeters and other of them are in centimeters and millimeters. So first one, it asks you to give it in centimeters and millimeters. Second one, it asks you just to give it in millimeters only. And we need to know that each centimeter is 10 millimeters. This third one, we need to give it in centimeters, so it's going to be something point something, and the final one's going to be in millimeters, so it's going to be 10, 20, 20 something. You need to have a practice and make sure you can get the answers correct. This section here we're going to practice in the homework part. This shows you the sort of lengths of things like cars and other objects. So it's a useful thing to do. You could have a look at home, measure a car or another object such as that, measure the width of a house. It's all good to see. This is about different units like meters and centimeters and how we combine them and then see differences. Here again we're combining meters and centimeters. We're converting here between meters and centimeters, which will be assessed, and again matching meters and centimeters, millimeters. If we have a look at the questions here, we want to convert meters to centimeters. Now 100 centimeters in a meter, so we're going to be multiplying by 100. The way I always teach children to multiply by 100 is to draw lines. So they're right there, 5.6. They'll put lines around it, recognising that the decimal point isn't a line, it's on a line. We're multiplying by 100, so we need 2 lines to the left hand side. We move each digit, like the 5 moves 2 places, so 1, 2, we write it right underneath. The 6 moves 2 places, 1, 2. In our ones place we've got nothing now, so we put a 0 as a placeholder. There's our decimal point. This column here is for the tenths. We don't need to put a 0 as a placeholder in, so our answer is just simply 560. We're also converting, going the other way, we're converting from centimeters to meters, so I'll show you one of those. We write 188, we draw our lines. We then recognise that the 8 is the ones, this 8 is the tens, and this is the hundreds. So we need to put a decimal point in. Decimal point comes to the right of the ones, and because we are dividing by 100 we're going to add 2 lines to the right hand side. Each digit moves 2 places to the right, so the 1 moves 1, 2, we write it underneath. The 8, first 8, well the 10's 8 moves 1, 2, write it underneath. Decimal point doesn't move, stays in the same position, and then we move the 1's 1, 2 places. Notice the order of these, 1, 8, 8, with no zeros in between, and again 1.88, same order with no other gaps in between them. So here we got 1.88. I'll just show you a 1-digit one because it is slightly different. So one down the bottom here. We've got 6 centimeters and we want to make it into meters. So we need to know where the ones are. We need to put a decimal point. We're going to be dividing it by 100. So we have 2 to the right hand side. We move each digit, we only got 1 digit, 1, 2 places, right, the 6 underneath. Decimal point doesn't move. Our ones column now has nothing in, so we need to put a 0 as a placeholder. Our tenths column has nothing in, we need to put a 0 as a placeholder. Our hundredths column has a 6 in, so that is going to be our answer, 0.06. I'll also show you the one here where we've got 0 points. I'll do the 0.44. We write our 0.44, we draw our lines, remembering the decimal point goes through a line. This time we want to multiply by 100, so we need 2 lines to the left. Because we've got 1 metre equals 100 centimetres, so we need to multiply by 100. That means moving each digit 2 places to the left hand side. Decimal point doesn't move. The 4 moves 1, 2, we write the 4 underneath. This 4 moves 1, 2, right underneath. This 0 here, the 0 is in the ones column. If we move it 2 places, 1, 2, we're going to be putting it in the hundreds column. It doesn't make it wrong, but it doesn't actually mean anything because it's saying 0 hundreds. But then if you ask, well, how many thousands are there? There's no thousands, there's no 10,000s. We don't put zeros in there. They're called leading zeros. We don't put them in. These 2 columns here, we also don't need to put anything in. They're tenths and hundredths. There's no real point in putting 0 in. Occasionally in things like science in year 7, they may, or actually even in year 6, they may sometimes be asked to give it something to an accuracy of a tenth or a hundredth, and then they would need to put zeros in. Here we don't need to, we just put 44 in. And we mark just those 4 questions. There you go. Question 2 is centimetres to millimetres, remembering there's 10 millimetres in a centimetre. So again, I'll just show you 1 or 2 of them. So starting off with a basic one. We need to write down what we know. We know 1 centimetre equals 10 millimetres. So if 1 centimetre equals 10 millimetres, 5 centimetres is going to be 50 millimetres, and 50 centimetres is going to be 500 millimetres. We're times in by 10. Now some children might talk about adding a 0 on the end of it. It certainly does look at it in the first one, and the second one it will also look like that. Problem comes when we come to the third one. If people start thinking we need to add a 0 on the end of it, then we're going to have a problem when we come to one like this. 74.8, which are our columns. We're going to be multiplying by 10, so we add 1 to the left. We move each digit 1 place to the left. We write them right underneath. And here we can see we're not adding a 0. We're moving each digit. We had something in the ones column, so we didn't need to add a 0 as a placeholder. That's the problem with children thinking they need to add a 0, because sometimes we don't need to add a 0 because we already had tenths. We multiply by 10, we've then got a possibly non-zero digit in the ones column. So our answer is 748 millimetres. Over here we're dividing by 10. Again, we don't want to be talking about taking zeros off, we want to be talking about moving digits. So I'll show you one of those. So here's one, we've got 835. We know 10 millimetres equals 1 centimetre. So we know we're going to be dividing by 10. Importantly, put a decimal point as a placeholder in. Not as a placeholder, sorry, decimal point to show where the ones are. The ones are on the left hand side of it. We're dividing by 10, so we put an extra column on the right hand side. We move each digit 1 place because 10 has 1 0. We write underneath. Really important we don't write on the same line. If we write on the same line, the 8 is going to be on top of the 3, and so on. Again, we check that the digits appear in the same order. 8 sitting next to 3, sitting next to 5, 8 sitting next to 3. There's a decimal point, and then the 5. So 83.5. Again, like last time, I'll show you some of the ones down the bottom. So this one, we need to again write what we know. 1 centimetre equals 10 millimetres. So we're timesing by 10. We write our 0.4, we draw our columns. Decimal point doesn't move. We know that we are moving each digit one place to the left. We move the 4 one place to the left. We can move the 0 one place to the left. It doesn't mean anything. There's no point writing it because it's saying no tens. It doesn't make it wrong if we do write it. And I'll show you whether we can actually do that on here. So see if we can write 04.0. Yeah, it does let us write it. We're now going to have a look at one of these ones, converting millimetres to centimetres. Again, right, but we know 10 millimetres equals 1 centimetre. So that we know we're dividing by 10. We write our 8s. These are the ones, so we need to put a decimal point after the ones and recognise decimal point doesn't move. We're going to be moving each digit to the right hand side, so write an extra column, and that's going to be our tenths. The 8 moves one place, you write it underneath. We've now got nothing in the ones column, so you put a 0 as a placeholder, and our answer is going to be 0.8. We'll mark those. We've done 5 of them, so expecting 5 marks. And there's our 5 marks. Okay, over to you.